After co-creating the survival horror classic Dead Space, industry veteran Glenn Schofield took a detour to work on Call of Duty. Now with his new development team striking distance, they aim to continue pushing the horror genre forward with the Callisto Protocol.
Shocking footage from Europa. A brazen attack by the Outer Way terrorist group, led by the notorious Danny Nakamura.
In 2320, contract transporter Jacob Lee and his partner Max are ferrying shipments of unidentified cargo between Jupiter's moons, Europa and Callisto, the latter of which is home to Black Iron Prison. In typical horror fashion, all hell breaks loose when supposed terrorist leader Danny Nakamura boards his ship. Jacob soon finds himself imprisoned in the high-tech facility, which is hiding a sinister secret. The narrative initially starts with enough mystery to entice your curiosity, but it loses steam and eventually plays out predictably. The characters end up feeling like cliché archetypes because we don't learn enough about them, but it's somewhat saved by solid performances.
Mayday, mayday, mayday! This is UJC Charon! Returning to Callisto! Requesting emergency clearance!
Negative, UJC Charon. You are not authorized for re-entry.
Combat is at the center of Callisto Protocol, and it's completely built around the stun baton. Light attack combos deal a good amount of damage and lead into follow-up shots with an equipped firearm that can keep enemies locked down and deal considerable damage. An unlockable heavy attack is good for crowd control, as it knocks enemies down with an all-or-nothing baseball swing. When a foe is down, Jacob can violently stomp on them to make sure they don't get back up, creating frantic moments of urgency as you attempt to eliminate vulnerable targets before they can get back in the fight. Attacking recklessly is an easy way to get killed, so Jacob must dodge melee attacks by holding and alternating the left stick from side to side. When you're facing a single enemy, it's usually simple, but getting caught in the environment can result in annoying deaths. Where the Callisto Protocol really struggles, however, is when facing multiple enemies at once. Dodging numerous monsters at the same time is difficult and often feels like it boils down to luck, unless you have enough resources. Using the environment to your advantage can help alleviate the struggle by luring enemies away from each other or by using other tools like explosive barrels to thin the ranks. But Jacob's sluggish mobility can make this tricky. There are a handful of firearms at your disposal, like pistols and shotguns that can be upgraded with Callisto credits, which you can find in the environment, on enemy corpses, and by selling resources. Upgrades to ammo capacity, damage, and accuracy are all meaningful and contribute to a steady, noticeable power increase as you fight for your life.
Stand by.
While the guns are helpful for picking off foes from a distance, the baton remains at the center of combat. Ammo is plentiful even on the highest difficulty, but the urge to save resources in a survival horror game should entice you to further lean on the baton, especially for the damaging follow-up attacks. Furthermore, guns lack the visceral impact of other means of dealing death.
We need to find a way to turn the power back on in there.
In addition to your baton and firearms, the grip unit can be used to grab items and enemies and throw them into environmental hazards or elsewhere. It's a very powerful tool, and when used properly, it can turn the tide of any battle to your favor. Launching enemies into grinding gears or wall spikes is immensely satisfying, not only because it looks beautifully gory, but because it's a good battle strategy too. It's also effective to throw enemies or objects at other enemies to stagger them and give you some breathing room. The tool can be upgraded similarly to the baton and firearms to increase its stats, while batteries can be found to recharge it quickly in the heat of battle. One of the most interesting elements of Callisto Protocol is mutations. Fairly early in the adventure, enemies start to exhibit the ability to mutate into much stronger forms. To stop this from happening, you have to quickly damage their tentacles as they begin to mutate, or risk facing a devastating monster. The concept is amazing and encourages aggression while amplifying the stress of each encounter. Each mutated enemy not only deals significant damage, but eats up tons of ammo if you aren't careful. Sadly, the mechanic eventually loses impact due to lack of enemy variety, as you see the same type of foe repeatedly hulk out. Some situations do allow you to take a more stealthy approach, and these end up being some of the more memorable scenarios. Jacob can sneak around and quietly dispatch most creatures with his blade, evening the odds and saving resources. These moments are extremely tense and do an excellent job of capturing that key ingredient of survival horror. Dying is part of the process, and when Jacob goes down, he goes down in flames. Depending on how Jacob is killed, you'll bear witness to brutal death animations that are a pleasure to watch if you love violence and gore. Each new enemy or death trap is practically begging you to sacrifice yourself, just to see how sick and twisted striking distance can go. The atmosphere of Black Iron Prison is excellent despite the somewhat claustrophobic confines. Realistic character models and stunning lighting make it easy to immerse yourself in the terror. Similarly, the audio will surely get under your skin as creatures skulk around in the walls and pop out of vents to ferociously attack. The only downside is a limited sense of exploration with fairly linear paths and objectives. Most of the locations and combat arenas are separated by scene transitions, like crawling through vents or shimmying through crevices, which happen so frequently it starts to reduce the tension. On PlayStation 5, the performance is stable, especially after a few recent patches, but a few hiccups still remain.
This'll come in handy though.
The Callisto Protocol is a solid first entry in what Striking Distance hopes to be the next big horror franchise. Flawed, but unique and engaging melee combat is a fun way to fight against terrifying foes, while Black Iron Prison is an alluring space to investigate. Limited exploration, a cliché story, and forgettable firearms hold it back from being truly great. However, underneath the blemishes, the Callisto Protocol pushes horrifying visual detail to emphasize tense and perilous encounters. Final score, 7.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching our review. We're Easy Allies. We've been writing about games for decades, and we also do podcasts, streams, shows, and more, all funded by regular viewers just like you. Head to patreon.com/easyallies to pitch in and get rewards, and be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay connected on YouTube. See you soon.